We live in a world that is constantly changing. The world inside of ourselves, and especially the world outside of ourselves. This is Josh Trent, and today I'm at peace. I'm excited with letting this podcast die. I know many of you have been with me since 2015 when I started this podcast in a spare bedroom. I was renting from a friend after I had put my mom in a mental home, ended a relationship, and gotten fired from a corporate job that was making me commit spiritual suicide. And just like anything in life, all good things, all great things come to an end. But listen, the great news, the good news, the amazing news is that yes, the Wellness Force podcast has officially died today. We put it to rest. 2/22/22 on this day. And the reason I'm letting the old name rest in peace is because that name represented a man I no longer am. And it's my intention with this solo cast to share with you the wisdom about death and rebirth, about creation and about letting go. And to share some wisdom that I've learned along the way in these last 7+ years and almost 500 interviews about the most important thing in life. And that is honesty and truth. Honesty and truth. And that's what I'm going to share with you today about why Wellness Force is going to die. And in its place, the seeds that were planted, which I'm so excited about, over a year ago, have yielded a new crop of wisdom, a new podcast with my heart and soul, connecting with your heart and soul. This new name of the podcast, we are shifting from Wellness Force to Wellness Wisdom. Here's why. I am now a father. I'm going to be 42 years old this year. And just like you, what served me in the past, my way of being, who I was as a human being, as a man, as a soul, as a human, it's changed. So much has changed. And so the reason that Wellness Force podcast is dying and Wellness Wisdom is being birthed is because I have gone through a cycle of death and rebirth myself. The old version, I know all the parents can relate, or for any of us that have gone through an identity shift or a shift of what you really love, what you really care about. It can be so hard to let go of what was. It can be so hard to let go of how things used to be, how things used to serve you. But if we are willing to have the courage to let go and stop the white-knuckling and stop the forcing and stop paddling upstream, trying to make something happen because we want it to be the same, but it's just not the same anymore, the biggest piece of wisdom we can do and we can access is to take a big, deep breath. So today I'm going to unpack and I'm going to share with you my journey. If you've been with me for the past 7 years, or if you're coming right here to Wellness Wisdom, it feels great to say that. It feels so good to say that. I've been thinking about this. I've been ruminating on this. If you're here with us for the Wellness Wisdom podcast, formerly known as Wellness Force, I'm going to share with you some unique wisdom that I've learned. And I really feel like by the end of this solo cast, this episode, you are going to take home to your relationships, to your partner, to your life, a unique blend of wisdom and practical knowledge that you can put to use right away. So let's dig in. You know, when I started the show, I was in a place of force. And if you look at the etymology of the word force is much different than power. For example, a black stallion running in nature, that's a force. That's a force of wellness. A tornado, a tsunami, a earthquake, these are all forces of nature. These are all forces of earth, forces of nature that really we could never contend with because they can't be trusted. So in other words, force cannot always be trusted, but power can be trusted. I'll link in the show notes a book from Dr. Hawkins called Power versus Force. And in this book, he describes the difference between force and power. Force is something that, yes, we can tap into and harness for a time, but power, true power, comes from peace. And we know this because whenever we're trying to control someone else or take over someone else's responsibilities or take over someone else's life or, quote, be in control, which control is an illusion, we know that that type of power isn't really power. It's force. When you take someone by force, when you access a force of nature, it's totally different and it's not as trustable. But here's the wisdom. Here's the wisdom I can share with you today about why I'm making this shift and how this is me in the public spotlight for you to see, for you to witness, that it's completely beautiful for you right now on 2/22/22 to let go of something that is cutting off your life energy, something that you yourself are forcing. It's time to let it go. And for me, I know that when I am powerful, it's coming from a place of peace. And that power can be trusted. Because when I do things from a place of peace, or when I do things from a place of love, I am pulled into them. And this is the dichotomy that we are learning on this podcast from this day forward, and we always have, formerly known as Wellness Force, today moving forward on 2/22/22 as Wellness Wisdom. We know that the best things in life come sometimes when we're not expecting them. Not when we're forcing them, not when we're trying to control them. And this was me in 2015. I was scrapping. I was coming from scarcity. I was doing the absolute best I could. And I look back on myself at 35 with deep, deep compassion. And my heart, actually, I can feel an emotion deep in my heart right now as I speak here, sit here, be here with you. And there's a gratitude for that. Because what I experienced in 2015 when I was fired from a job was both terror and liberation at the same time. Can you relate? If you've ever been fired, or if you deep in your heart want to be fired from the job that you're in, or you want to be fired from the relationship you're in, or you want to just let go of something, but there's something inside of you that just can't understand how to do it. And this is what I've learned. This is the big piece. You cannot solve an emotional, spiritual problem or issue with the intellect or the ego. And just let that land for a second. You cannot solve an emotional or spiritual issue or malady with the mind, with the ego. The only way you solve or come to learning and have wisdom from an emotional or spiritual issue is by taking the time to breathe, to drop in, and to ask yourself 3 big questions. And this is exactly where I'm at in sharing my journey with you, being here as a father, shifting the podcast from Wellness Force to Wellness Wisdom. It is this. When I achieve things, when I do things, my way of being, however I operate in this world, if I do it from a lens of 3, like a child looking into a kaleidoscope, I'm going to be successful. But even more important, I am going to enjoy the journey to get there. Here's what I mean. Everything that happens for us, it either happens for us or to us. And we know that on some level, especially if you've read Joe Dispenza's work or if you've listened to any of the hundreds and hundreds of podcasts that we've done. You know that it's so easy to intellectualize healing. It's so easy to intellectualize our path in this world because the mind is a really, really good aggregate of information and knowledge. But here's the thing. The mind can't help you when it's a matter of the heart. The mind can't help you when it's a matter of the soul. So how do we congregate? How do we connect the intellect, the ego, the heart where we experience emotions, and the soul, which is you, me, the soul? There'll never be another you in this world. Isn't that beautiful? There'll never be another me in this world. But how do we do this? How do we connect and live and be in communion and in harmony and learn wisdom from all 3? Well, today I bring the wisdom to you. When we experience life, when we live our life, when we have learning lessons, when we have conflict, when we experience anything at all that allows us to evolve and be a better human, we can do it in this way. And I call this something very, very special. This is the EI2. This is the emotional intelligence squared. Emotional intelligence squared has nothing to do with just the mind. It has everything to do with the 3 pieces that I've discussed. You can tap right here wherever you're watching. You can look at the blog post or the show notes, and you'll have some visuals to see what's going on. But it is this. I experience something. Let's say it's a fight with a partner. And I ask myself from a place of wisdom, parenting myself, what am I experiencing in my ego right now? What am I experiencing in my mind? Because the mind, the ego, is our amigo. It is a friend. I don't believe in Ryan Holiday's the ego is the amigo. I think when we open up our consciousness and we look at ourselves from 30,000 feet above the world, the earth, the most important thing that we can learn is that none of these energies, our wisdom and our connection to God, higher power through our soul, the way that we experience sadness, anger, fear, joy, all these things in our heart, energy and motion, emotion, and the combination of what's going on in our mind from the intellect or from the ego. These things need to be in harmony. Because an ego, a heart, and a soul in harmony, that is what creates integration. That is true embodiment. That is true integration. And I've talked about this on the podcast for years. And this is my journey. This is our journey together. It is this arc of wellness that we're all walking. The arc of wellness states that we gather, we apply, and then we embody. So this is big. Gather, application, embodiment. When we gather, we are listening to podcasts. We are reading books. We are reading more books. We are taking seminars. We're going out. We're doing things. And then this is the part where most people slip off on the arc of wellness, is instead of actually applying the knowledge and applying what they've learned, they stop because there's a lack of self-love there, a lack of self-belief, a lack of self-awareness, and they go back. They go back to more application. I need to get another certification. I need to get more training. I need to get a PhD. You can be a PhD and be an alcoholic. Just because you have education, just because you have information and knowledge, does not mean you are wise. And you can only have wisdom when you have the courage to look within yourself and feel what is out of alignment. What do you believe to not be true about yourself? What do you believe that you're not capable of? These are the things that block people, and really that blocked me for so many years of full wellness, full integration of wellness. And that is, I gather, I apply, which is the big one, and then I embody. And you know this, right? You know when you're around somebody that embodies wellness or embodies truth or embodies courage or embodies freedom, because you can just fucking feel it from them. You don't need an example. You don't need to have a conversation or explain to yourself why this person's great, why you can trust them. You just know. And it's that inner knowing that I have developed and that I am going to be sharing more and more and more with you on this podcast, this Wellness Wisdom podcast, which I'm so excited about. I'm like, it feels like a weight has been lifted off my chest. Here's the knowledge. Here's the wisdom. The knowledge is that you have everything you need inside of you right now to be fully, fully vibrant and love yourself and believe in yourself and have abundance in health, wealth, relationships. And see the quadrant of wellness now as a pentagon, where before you might have been focused on mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, but now you realize that the quadrant is actually a pentagon. Yes, to be here on planet Earth is to be mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually sound, fulfilled. But also, in order to create the container to be that, to do that, you have to have financial intelligence, financial wealth. And to embody financial wealth, there is a separate learning curve than in that physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. So let's pause there and let's do a deep breath together. And when you do this, I want you to put your hand in your heart, hand in your stomach, close your eyes, fill your nose with rich air, and fill a balloon behind your belly button. We're going to do it twice together. Just let this integrate what we've shared today, what's been transmitted. And I say that not in a woo spiritual way, but truly, it's been transmitted. I don't exactly know where I get things from sometimes. They come through. And I hear that a lot in the spiritual world, like, oh, this is a cosmic download. And I'm just like, you're full of shit. But truly, I understand where that comes from now. So let's do this. Let's let what has been said and what has been shared and what has been transmitted, let's let that integrate into your cells. In 2 deep breaths, close your eyes, fill your nose with rich air and a balloon behind your belly. It is on the edge of death that we know how to live. It is by knowing death that we can truly live. And this is not something that I read in a book. It's something that I feel today. It's something that I know is true. So let me go back. Let me go back and talk to you about the integration, the real way that I and you and we are going to be moving forward in 2022. Starting today, 2/22/22, this lens of 3, this EI2, this EI squared, this emotional intelligence squared comes from these 3 lenses. These 3 lenses remind us of death. They remind us of love. They remind us of everything that's most important. Let's go through an example here. So you're in a relationship, you're in a marriage, you're having an experience, and your partner says something like this to you. You always say that. You always do that to me. I hate it when you do that to me. Now, depending on your level of processed trauma or unprocessed trauma, you might have a catecholamine response in your body and you might immediately shout at them. But the wise woman, the wise man will do something different. First of all, they'll take a breath to shift their vagus over to parasympathetic. And that vagus tone, that vagal nerve, is the part of our body that we access in the Breathe, Breath, and Wellness program. You can find that at breathwork.io, which, by the way, so many exciting things happening to the Breathe program and breathwork.io. So go there if you have been craving the breath, craving how to educate and embody the breath. But let's go back to the example. You take a breath, you look at your partner in the eyes, and you say, wow, that really hurt. Or ouch, that's a good one. And from that space, you then say, you know, I'm experiencing a lot right now. And you ask for permission. You say, can I share? Can I share what I'm experiencing right now? And if your partner cares about you, or if they're in a place to do so, they'll say yes. And here's where you apply the EI2, the emotional intelligence squared. You say, my love, my partner, my person, my ego right now, my intellect, my ego is shouting at me. And it's telling me that I got to get away from you, that I don't really love you, that nothing is ever going to work out. And it's bringing up a lot of crunchiness for me. It's making me feel the second lens, and that is sadness. It's making me feel sad. So we describe what is going on in the ego, in the intellect to our partner to reference that, to make that real and let it be known. And then we go right to the heart. And the wisdom of the heart is the antidote to the intellect. Because when I'm sharing my wisdom from the heart, the intellect has nowhere to hide. And so I share with my partner, I'm sad right now. I love you and it really hurts when you say that to me. I'm experiencing a lot of sadness. And then from those 2 things, when you start with the ego and the mind, and you bring light to it, and you share from the wisdom of the heart, and you bring light to it, then you can really have the most potent wisdom from the soul. And remember, our soul is a connection to God, not a bearded dude in the sky, but a loving, omnipresent energy that guides and loves all things. And so my soul's wisdom in this moment could say, I'm experiencing this because of epigenetic transfer of pain. I learned it from mom, dad, grandpa, grandma. My partner is exhibiting characteristics of their epigenetic pain, of their family constellation pain. And you could have that wisdom that you share with your partner. Or you could say, I love you and I know that my ego is screaming at me to get away from you and that this is wrong and that this hurts. And my heart is telling me I'm sad and it's giving me this wisdom. But my soul knows this is just an opportunity where you need to test me because you need to know that you're safe. And you are safe. I love you. And this hurts. Please don't test me in this way. You can trust me. I'm here for you. And the wisdom of my soul is sharing with me that I must have, in order to have wisdom, you must have challenge. In order to have wisdom, you must have problems to solve. You must have thresholds to cross. So in this moment with my partner, as an example, the wisdom that is being shared is the wisdom of the heart, the screaming of the intellect and the ego, and the ultimate wisdom that we can connect to from our soul. Because God is never, ever, ever going to give us anything that we cannot handle. And I'm sure you've read that in a book or heard it in a soliloquy or some kind of a social media text. But you know on a very deep level that in those moments when your ego's screaming, when your physicality has taken over, you're flooded with norepinephrine and you're flooded with cortisol, you know that it is in those moments that you can choose. And it's written on my arm. It's what we stand for with Wellness Force Media. This podcast, this Wellness Wisdom podcast, brought to you by Wellness Force Media. Wellness Force Media holds the energy of the Wellness Wisdom podcast. It holds the energy of civilizedcaveman.com, where you can get resources for paleo and keto and personal development. And in this umbrella, in this understanding of wellness and force and really knowing thyself, that's truly what this is all about. There is some wisdom that we can pull from. And that wisdom doesn't necessarily come from me. I just reflect it back to you because you already have the knowledge inside of you anyways. In other words, all you and I are doing with this podcast, with our lives, is we are removing the debris and we are getting rid of the crud that is already blocking us and that has been blocking us. And that when we remove that blockage, what's inside truly, truly fucking shines. And you know this on some level, because when I'm speaking to you, when I'm with you right now, there is a part of you that understands what I'm saying is true, but the mind is going to come in and the mind is going to say whatever it says. So we go back to EI2. We go back to emotional intelligence squared. What is the wisdom of the heart? What is the shouting of the mind? And what is the wisdom of the soul that is essentially connected to a very high part of ourselves that is God? And that is the observer. I mentioned it earlier, there's a child holding a kaleidoscope, right? And you know this. You ever look through a kaleidoscope? You look through one lens, and inside of the kaleidoscope, there's multiple lenses. Well, the kaleidoscope of your life is your observer looking down at you. You can look at Eckhart Tolle's work. You can look at Rupert Sheldrake's work. You can look at Paul Chek's work. You can look at anyone's work that is really desiring connection with God. Because in this connection with God, we have that observer effect. We can really see down and see into what we're experiencing. And so if I'm looking at life, if I'm experiencing life through those three lenses in EI squared, I have my mind, I have my heart, and I have my soul. And the mind, the heart, and the soul are connected to that one singular lens that is looking down, loving me, watching me, experiencing me. Learn and have wisdom. And be that embodied wisdom. That is what this path has always been for me. I just didn't know it. That's why it's so amazing to share this with you today. I didn't know when I started that this would ever be. Just like you, whenever you start something, you have no idea where it's going to go. You have no idea what it's going to expand into. And this is what I'll leave you with today. As you go into your life from this day forward, 2/22/22. Let your commitment, let your desire, let your loving heart guide you in this world. Let your loving heart guide you in this world. And when your heart is broken, when your heart is challenged, let yourself cry, let yourself feel, let yourself be vulnerable to someone that you trust. And I want you to know you can always trust me here at Wellness Wisdom, because that lens of truth that I'm going to share with you, it is the same lens of truth that I've always shared. But the difference is, as we say goodbye and as we let Wellness Force die, what is being birthed is a new lens, a new way of being, a new understanding of the power and the love and the sovereignty that I am and that you are and that we are. And that is the kind of power that comes from peace, and that power can be trusted. I'm emotional right now. If you're watching me on YouTube, you can see it in my eyes, because there is a deep sadness that we die. There is. I used to be angry that we died, but now there's a sadness. And in a beautiful way, that sadness, where one day I won't ever get to hold my son again. I won't ever get to be with my woman. I won't ever get to be with my family, my friends. That sadness offers inside of it a gift, a gem. Because if we didn't know death, then we wouldn't know life. If we didn't have dark, we wouldn't know light. It is this snake eating its tail that we're all living inside of. That is the wisdom being birthed right now in this moment with you and I. So in a way of being, and in alignment with what we're doing in this world. If we can meditate on death every day and know that one day we will die, that is going to make us live. That is going to make us love. That is going to make us reflect and pause and breathe and pull back the curtain of the illusion that you and I are separate, that your skin color matters, that your sexual preference really matters. None of this matters. We are all projecting on each other's projections. And the biggest gift, the most wisdom that I can leave you with here today is the wisdom of the heart. Let your heart guide you from this day forward to 2222. We're going to be having incredible programs this year. The Freedom Accelerator Mentorship. If you would like to work with me one-on-one, I only work with 14 to 16 people a year, so that's a very high value. And it's not for everyone, because it's for people that want to have mastery in these 5 quadrants, right? The physical, the emotional, the mental, the spiritual, the financial. If that resonates with you, reach out to me. You can also go to our programs page, wellnessforce.com/programs. Also on that programs page, you can see our collective, the collective that I still haven't chosen the name for, but we're building it. Maybe you can help me. I'll link a survey down here as well, and you can tell me what you would like to see, what you would like to experience, and how we can help you the most with this podcast, the Wellness Wisdom Podcast. Because Wellness Force Media is going to continue to grow. I have a lot of beautiful plans. I have a lot of great things coming, but they're all going to come from that place of peace, that place of peace where you can really trust the power that emanates from it. And so I'm super grateful for you. I'm grateful that you're here with me. I'm grateful for you being on the journey with me. And I'm most grateful for you just being here. Your time, your breath, it's the most valuable thing you have, because every single breath you take and every single second you spend with anyone or anything, you can't ever get it back. So I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful for us being on this journey together. And please let me know how we can support you. How can the Wellness Wisdom Podcast support you? How can Wellness Force Media support you? What do you need this year? Are you dealing with anxiety, depression, mental health, digestive issues, spiritual maladies, integration that needs to happen, forgiveness, resentments? What are you dealing with? And on the other side, what makes you itch? As one of my deceased mentors, Alan Watts, says, if money was no option and if you could do anything you wanted in the world, what would you do? What makes you itch? That's the kind of things that we're going deep into this year with all the programs, all the offerings, and everything that I and we are up to at wellnessforce.com/programs. I've got incredible love for you. I've got incredible respect for all of us who are dedicated to this path of wellness. And until I see you again on the Wellness Wisdom Podcast, until we dive into all things in the Pentagon, in the Pentagon of wellness, from my heart to yours, this is Josh Trent saying, let's let something die. Let's let something be birthed. And let's be honest and vulnerable and authentic from our heart, from our ego, and from our soul, so that the observer that's watching us and guiding us and loving us can truly be in communion. From my heart to yours, until I see you down the road on the episode that's coming next for Wellness Wisdom, I'm wishing you love and wellness.